In this video, I collaborate with a fellow Webtoon artist, and we talk a little bit about what it's like having our comics for a year. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Artsume Shae, if you didn't know already, and this has been a very eventful year. 2024 was the continuation of my Webtoon Space Ultima, and around the same time that I hit my 1 year mark, another Webtoon creator also hit their 1 year mark for their Webtoon. Fellow Webtoon creator and also fellow YouTuber MAGICLANDS was able to reach their 1 year milestone as well. MAGICLANDS is the creator of Changeling, a comic on Webtoon Canvas, and they were able to talk with me a little bit about what the process has been like in this whole year of creating their comic. The video you're watching right now is part 1, and part 2 is going to be available on their channel. So without further ado, enjoy! Alright everybody, so in celebration of a whole year of both of our Webtoons, I am joined here with me, or virtually should I say, MAGICLANDS, and today we're going to talk more about our comics, the creation process, and what inspires us to do what we do. Hello MAGICLANDS, how are you doing today?
Hi, doing great. So excited to finally connect with you, and I cannot wait to get into all the fun details and things that we're going to be talking about today about comic creation, and I'm so hyped for it.
Yes, it is really a great thing to be able to communicate and connect with other creators. Of course, this is my first collab on my channel, and I'm guessing also first collab on yours too?
Same, yes.
Both have encountered that 1 year mark of our comics. We actually collaborated together on a illustration celebrating both of our comics. That was a really fun idea that we were able to collaborate together on. Just real quick, I guess, what would you say the process of drawing that, your characters in that, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was amazing to have everything set up from Clip Studio. It was really fun to be able to bring both of our worlds together with our characters and have them in the same space and laughing together, interacting, and it's so cool to be able to share that with another creator of hitting that milestone and celebrating that. I think we don't as artists oftentimes celebrate our accomplishments enough, and I think it's really special to have been able to not only been invited by such a talented creator to be a part of celebrating together, but being there for ourselves and honoring our stories and honoring together just makes it that little extra special. So that was really fun for me.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a great, I guess, scene, like you were mentioning, just celebrating our accomplishments and celebrating the stories that we have. And just what better way than to show that than to have our characters actually celebrating. And I think it's so funny because the content itself is often so different than the drawings we make. I feel like I've been drawing a lot of very happy-go-lucky and all these other types of scenes, and then you actually read the comic, at times it's not so much that, but it's fine.
Oh my God.
I think the audience just likes to see them in a happy state, and they're up for it no matter what.
Yeah, totally. And same here. My comic is kind of depressing, but it's so nice to see them be able to have fun and enjoy and just be, live happily. And I just absolutely love the setting of on the beach together and be able to draw them in special outfits and stuff for it, doing a beach theme was, oh my gosh, I was so excited for that. And so just hopping in and just drawing and designing the different outfits was really fun.
Definitely. So to once again kind of honor all the hard work that has been put into this, we're gonna just kind of have a conversation about just our comics and answering some questions that you all may be interested in when it comes down to our comics. Now, we both have webtoons, mine being Space Ultima and MAGICLANDS being Changelings. And I would describe them as being very adventurous. We are going to both kind of answer these 5 questions, and then you guys will be able to see the other 5 questions on the other person's channel. This, of course, is going to pertain to both of our comics. So what is the main reason for creating your comic, and what would you say is the main messages you would like for your audience to learn from the story and the characters?
Oh man, yeah, it's tough. I feel like there's so many different kinds of things that just sort of happen at different parts of the story, and especially being a long format story, there's a lot of different like topics that I like to cover. But I would say like the main message in Changeling is life is short. And it's easy to get like caught up in the chaos of it all, but it's important to take things day by day and appreciate like the small moments in the here and now and just live. It's not about the destination. It's not even about the journey, but the company we keep and together with like friends and the memories that we're making. So that's something that I want to say with my story through my characters' struggles and seeing them sort of finding themselves. You know, hopefully that other people that when they read my comic that they can also feel it too and they can connect to my story.
That's awesome. I think in the arc that they're in right now is very much that like kind of road trip comedy.
Yes. I love road trips.
Yeah, it's and then I was looking through just like with all your main characters finally kind of meeting and being in a setting where they can interact the most. And then you've got like, you know, the bird and your guy not really getting along all that well, and just the hijinks that ensue. Yeah, that's really good, because I think you're right, like the journey and the destination, I think people either put too much emphasis on either.
Exactly,
in real life especially. So
that's exactly
it's good to have that. I definitely think that the main takeaway for Space Ultima is just for people to choose not to like let their circumstances kind of like hold them back. I think that my story came from a lot of personal experiences where, you know, you meet Sophie where she's kind of in a position and a place that she's not satisfied with, but she doesn't really know her way out of that. You know, it is in essence like a comfort zone for her. And I think that's something I've encountered a lot in life, is just staying in my comfort zone. And then, you know, I just kind of made a decision to be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna let certain life things or certain things hold me back. I'm gonna, you know, decide to either get mad and fight back or just like, you know, make my own reality. I think that she's definitely an example of that. I also think that it's easy to think, you know, oh, I'm in a new job or I'm in a new situation. It's all gonna be great. Everything's gonna work out. It's definitely not. The funny thing is that, you know, despite being in this new world that she's found herself in, yes, there are like great things about it, but you're still gonna, you know, life is pain. You're still gonna encounter, you know, issues even when you are quote unquote where you want to be. So yeah, I just hope that people can like resonate with it and be able to see that, like, yeah, like kind of like you said, you know, you make your own reality.
Totally. And like I was about to say, like when I read your comic all the way through, like it's just so profound, like the feeling of like knowing that what she's going through and sort of like becoming from like, you know, a teen into a young adult and kind of like learning and like actually taking the plunge and you see her struggle because she doesn't want to abandon her family. You know, it's not that step is what she's doing. She's doing like what she can to help others, and her abuelita like there and encouraging her and saying like, no, you're not abandoning us, go do your and live your life, you know, you have to, you know, press forward despite being, you know, like afraid. And you see her do that, and like I swear, like that feeling of like reading that chapter, and especially that moment, like I felt that like in my like my heart like so deeply, because you know it's easy to get like caught up in that feeling of like, oh, I'm afraid, like what if this goes wrong, or like what if I'm making the wrong decision. But if you keep on thinking that way, you know, you won't see the amazing things that could come out of it. And yeah, there's always struggle along the way. You know, it's still, that's a part of life. And you know, you see Sophie like forging her own path, and it is so inspiring and so amazing to see, you know, how far she's come already in just making that one decision and taking the leap.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Does good art matter for comics? So I came from an illustration background. I think initially you put in, when you first start, you put in like maximal effort when you're drawing your panels, only to then, and this is, you know, one of those things that you learn in a year of doing something, you realize nobody's looking that deep into this. And at first
it's the same, oh my god.
We all, as artists, we all have like that perfectionist in us. A sound in the back of our head that's like, okay, this just, it doesn't look quite right, different things like that. But then you start to kind of like release that, and you think to yourself, well, you know, I want to do the best I can do at this. I also have to be like economical with my time. And if you notice, and this is why I give everybody free, okay, it's a balance, right? So you want to put your best foot forward when you're drawing something as simple as like one panel. But at the same time, I use that energy for like panels that absolutely have to be a banger, you know? Like when it's like a close-up, or when it's like a really like epic, you know, landscape or epic scene. You know, I think about that one in a recent episode where like Sophie's like in this like avatar state basically. And like I'm like, you know, I want to put 100% into this panel. Leading up to that, maybe I don't need to put so much effort into those. And I also noticed that like even in like the animation and the anime industry, and also like, you know, the major comic industry, you'll have panels that don't even have shading. Like you'll have frames that everybody's like literally, you know, this small, and they aren't like needing that high detail. So I think like, I do think that good art matters, but I think that excessive, like highly rendered, highly produced, can kind of like vary in your comic.
Yeah, totally. I agree with everything you say. Like it's such a process of, it's like a marathon for comics. Like they're just like the whole aspect and medium of itself is extremely demanding, you know, physically creating all these different panels in order to tell a story. That's what makes it different from animation, makes it different from just writing and or illustration. You're telling these or creating these images in a sequence to be able to communicate that visually. And yeah, you really have to pace yourself, because it's easy to like burn out, you know, if you're sprinting at the beginning of the race, you know. And no, you just take it little by little and like kind of divvy up your energy between the panels, and I think that definitely goes a long way. My idea for does good art matter, and especially like the terms of like the webcomic space, and especially like the more modern idea of it is difficult to like tell people, because I feel like it's been said so many different times. Like I feel like yes and no, it does matter, but in my opinion, a visual voice matters. So not necessarily like, I think visual voice matters over technically accurate drawings. And that voice is just present through your own style and how you draw. And there are many like successful comics that are out there that have like rough or sketchy styles, or like the characters are not like super technically drawn. But because their story is like really compelling, and the art doesn't have to be spectacular for like the people want to read it. And like, I believe that is like the crux of attraction, because there are many bad comics out there with like gorgeous artwork, but they have like a total nothing burger for a story. And, you know, if we get so like caught up in the idea of like, oh, the art has to be very, very good and it has to be the best, then it's just, you know, you're stuck in trying to reach an impossible standard, really. Because like, I think personal style has a lot to do with it, and like some people won't read comics that are outside of their own art style preferences. And I think that's like, as artists, we kind of have to just accept that as well. Like, we're all allowed to have preferences, and that's okay. Some readers are more adventurous than others, and like, I think looking back, I'm guilty of it too, because like there's some like anime that I've dropped because the art style was strange, like Code Geass. Like, I could not get over their noodle legs, but if I just, and I gave it a chance, and I found out that it was a phenomenal show. It was great, and I had such a fun time if I just look past the noodle legs. And, you know, if you get caught up, what I'm trying to say is like, if you spend your life trying to appease the masses, you will only hurt yourself as an artist. You know, you can't make everyone happy, so just do you. And the right people who would appreciate your art for what it is will come, and you'll see people give it a chance. So focus on your story and create the art that you do, and don't stress too hard about it.
Yeah, I think that you're right. Like, I think with my first venture into the Webtoon sphere, I was trying to do what I thought would like appeal to the masses, because this might not be the best thing to say about Webtoon, but I have no cards in the game. You know, I think that Webtoon
Say it.
The dragging Webtoon. I think that Webtoon, just the way the platform works, does kind of already set up competitive nature in the users and the creators on the app. So yeah, like, I do agree that from a marketing standpoint, you know, everybody's basically competing for that reader's attention. So I do agree you should do things that can help boost you to the people who will find your story and find your art style interesting. But at the same time, you can't help but see isekai or certain like romances are like, you know, dominating the space. And initially you're like, oh, I have to make that story. No, you don't have to make that story, but what you do need to do is like make the story that speaks to you, will speak to other people, and then just go through the race of trying to show it to the right people. And there are a variety of art styles that, like, even the most popular and top tier, like, or should I say top ranked canvas creators, there are a lot of diverse stories and visual stories out there. So
yeah, totally. And, you know, like, I think also don't compare yourself to originals, because those have like a team of people behind it, like assistants and background artists and all these other people. So don't compare yourself, you know, just like do your art, because like that voice and that style, like you said, like there's other like originals that are out there that have been brought on from canvas because their art style is unique, and it's not necessarily like manhwa level like style, but it's like the artist's voice, you know, it's the way that the artist decides to depict their characters, and people enjoy it for what it is, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, like conventional. So I think getting not like caught up in all of that will save you guys, you know, like a lot of heartache.
Thoughts on how pacing yourself and staying motivated to work on long format stories?
Yeah, I think this is like really important for people who want to get into doing comics long form, and most of the time that's what they end up taking shape to be, like from short stories can continue into long format. And yeah, it's tough. Like we were saying earlier, it's like a marathon. You really have to pace yourself and, you know, like allow yourself to have that sort of leeway. But I'd say like staying motivated, the main thing is get excited about your story. And it's like, this is my disconnect with some creators who are just kind of indifferent about their story. They're just, you know, like, oh yeah, I just decided I'd make this. You know, they don't really have any real connection, because I feel like I have to live and breathe my story.
Yeah.
Changing is such a huge part of myself that I can't help but get excited, because like every panel that I create is like one step forward to bringing the story and my characters to life. And like with long format stories, it's easy to get like discouraged looking at the mountain of work ahead to like to like reach that finish line. But I think if you just take it one panel at a time, it will go by much faster than you think. And speaking from experience, like the both of us now can look back at all those hours of hard work that may have felt really overwhelming at the time, but because we put the work in little by little, we can sit here today, a whole year later, into creating our comics and publishing, and we're still creating and keeping that fire burning and excited about our stories. So stick with it and celebrate those small victories. Seriously, like you did some thumbnails, celebrate. You inked one panel, celebrate, because little by little, you will make it up that mountain, and we're still climbing, you know.
Oh yeah, it's not over. Yeah. It's not over until the very last episode of your story. I make it my I try my best, but I make it a rule where on days where I upload, I don't work on the comic. Even if it's like scheduled, I will just be like, I just want to, you know, read the comments, sit in it, and then I start back tomorrow. Enjoy the win. I don't want to like just be so fast paced and like, all right, next thing. Depending on if somebody's just trying to do this casually, maybe doing not like a long form is best, maybe doing like short stories is best. I think for me, planning has really, or actually helped the journey become more of a system, if that makes sense. So like, I watched this one art YouTuber, and their video was so good. I'll maybe put it in the description, but she kind of like brought up the same forethought for somebody who's like trying to like work out, you know, like whenever you go to a gym, it's like if you don't have a plan, you're just gonna be on the treadmill for 20 minutes and then leave. Like I think for me, I try to plan out like, okay, I know that here are the different steps of an episode. There's like the script, line art, or script, sketch, line art, etc. And so I kind of block out like, okay, in a week, I want to be able to complete the line art for this episode or whatnot. Like, not even having a humongously strict plan, but just having a plan so that way I don't have to think about, okay, what step am I in? What phase am I in? I just automatically know, like, all I'm working on this week is line art. Having a plan helps also be more consistent and also help over time be better about a schedule.
Take it piece by piece, you know, like you have to just sort of like set your goals small, because like it will then like achieve that, you know, those big steps later down. Like if you're doing it little by little, like you said, like week by week, like just dedicating and say, okay, I'm going to do this week, and you know, resetting that goal for the next week. It's like such a wonderful way of like building that discipline sort of like naturally, that you're not noticing it. Because like, yeah, it's hard to like sit yourself down and say like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, do all of this in one day. Like, no, it's small steps at a time. Like you can't, you know, shove yourself into something, because then it's going to make it so much more difficult. Like, just let it be gradual. Like, it'll get done, you know, once you dedicate yourself to that.
When did you know it was the time to start creating your comic? What factors helped you decide when you were ready? I think in like another video a long time ago, I had mentioned that I actually didn't know what form Space Ultima was going to take. That like scene where you know, Sophie and Zan are battling the alien slime. I was thinking of that scene being animated instead of being in a comic form. I don't know what gave me the thought that that could be animated, because I am not an animator. So
I could totally imagine it animated though. It's such a cool scene. But yeah, continue.
And yeah, like, you know, it's got like motion and action aspects. So that is definitely what made me think about having it as an animated short. So then I continued to like brainstorm and think about it. And I was very hesitant to venture back into the webtoon sphere because I had done my story Underdog. I knew that there were things I had to do differently this time around, so I took the time to really flesh out as much as possible the story, the world building, and the lore of these characters. Had an idea of what the beginning and the end would look like in order for me to feel like it was time to go ahead and start. And so I think that's what it was. It was kind of like realizing, do I have just enough where I can go ahead and start and not feeling like I was just making the story perfect? And I think that's where a lot of creators kind of get hung up, is that they feel like they need to have every single episode written, everything edited, like all this other stuff. And I think I felt confident in knowing my characters, their backstory, and then also knowing like at least like that intro of the story. Knowing kind of like the story beats where, you know, you kind of get into the action, knowing the setup of setup of Sophie and her story. While yes, I realized that it was the time to start, at the same time, I had to be okay with knowing things will change. So a lot of like these more recent episodes do not look like how I originally wrote them. They actually look, there are bits and pieces that like I took and reworked to be the episodes that we have now, but they didn't start that way. So I think that's the other beauty of it. When you're drawing these comics, drawing these episodes, you'll draw something, and now that you actually visualize it, that kind of creates a domino effect of like how it maybe adapts your story moving forward further. So that's my long-winded response.
And that's the beauty and like excitement that we as creators have, is like telling the story of these characters and making them feel as real as possible. And through our writing and through how they present themselves in the story, it's like, you know, it's building that out little by little. And when it comes to scripting and stuff, like I'm kind of the opposite, to be honest. Like I have to have everything like completely planned out and very like, you know, with it on that. But at the same time, like you said, it's a domino effect. There's some things in my script that I would write, and then like I'll actually get down to storyboarding it and then realize that like, oh dang, like I have to like rewrite this scene in, because the way I wrote it doesn't really fit to like the space of like how an action scene is happening. You know, I might have wrote, okay, you know, like 3 guys come into a room, but I have to realize like, oh, okay, no, I have to add all these extra panels in to show them coming, you know, to the tavern and then opening the door and then spotting the character. And then, you know, it's a process of like feeling that out between like the disconnect between script and the beats versus the visual format of comic making. So, but like, oh my gosh, everything you brought up is so true. And I really hope that other artists who are, you know, thinking of creating their stories can, you know, see the experience that you've gone through and the way that you've built your story. You know, everyone has a different experience with how they tell and create their comics.
Like you said, everybody is different. I think that everybody has a method that works for them. I would say if I put any like absolute, you need this thing to create and to start your webtoon, I would say having your characters and knowing them inside and out. If you write a scenario and you have your characters, how your characters would interact in that scenario, I feel like, one, all the characters should, in a weird way, act differently. If you know who your characters are, like you know, like yourself, you should be able to see a scenario and be able to like write your character in that situation like it's nothing.
I guess like from my perspective, like when I was like quote unquote ready, like I was one of those people who would tell myself like I have to get good. I have to get good at everything before I even start. And it was crippling. It was like so difficult because like I had set like in reality, that's like an arbitrary goal that has no end, because like we're in a constant state of improvement, you know, like from how we write the characters to like how we're telling the stories, like we're always improving with each time that we do write or each time that we do draw. So like if you set the impossible goal of perfection before you even start, like you'll never catch up with it. And I think that's like so frustrating as an artist, is like feeling limited by like my ability. I had my entire script done that I've been writing since high school. It got to a point where it's just like I would add to it every so often. If I had like, you know, a new life experience, I would go and I'll add things to my characters and like read through the whole script. And so it had become like this mega manuscript that was like written out like a novel. And I just sat on it and I was like, one day I'll do something with it. And it was like completed, absolutely completed, and I just did nothing with it. I never expected it to see the light of day. The day I knew I was gonna finally start was the day that I had kind of like a close call of death, somewhat, I would say. Like I was just,
oh my god.
I'm sorry to be morbid, but I was like,
no, it's okay.
I woke up the next day and I was like, I have to do something, because like I picked up the pen the next day and I started drafting out the storyboards for the very first episode or chapter, because like I didn't want to think about the regret I would have if I missed out on telling my story. And like my art was like super rough, but I figured I'll just learn on the way. And like you do, just by doing the thing. And you can't get better if you don't do the thing. So do the thing and just start somewhere, because we all have to start at some point, and you kind of just learn and you build your characters out little by little. And that's the beautiful thing about creating, is that you're improving through that time and through the action of creating.
Wow. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that, you know, I wouldn't call your response morbid. I just call it realistic. Because trust me, like I think Space Ultima came out of me like almost becoming depressed. So
yeah, no, it's
we do what we can.
Yeah, like for real, it's that experience. And like, yeah, like it connects back to themes in my story as well, of like, you know, life is short, you know, I don't want to think about, you know, a world where we miss out on other people, you know, not telling their stories because of these things in life that are, you know, like preventing us internally from being able to tell it. Like you can do it. You can tell your story. You have the ability to tell it. Doesn't matter where you're starting from, who you are, where you're starting. It's just tell the story, because you'll feel better once you do, because you're putting it in a space and you're making it come to life, and that's the main thing.
Oh, so inspiring. What kinds of tips did you have for yourself when you first started, or for a beginner comic that is looking to start telling your story? Honestly, I feel like we kind of have like really throughout this video described just what our learnings have been. Really trying your best, and I say trying your best because it never really goes away, but like trying your best to extinguish the self-doubt. For me, I have kind of done like iterations of what I'm doing now before. Like I've done YouTube in the past, I've done Webtoon in the past, and those first times did not go as planned, but I had to like be kind to myself and, you know, through therapy, be able to say like, that's not the only time I'm going to do this thing, and that's not going to be how I leave off my story. At least you can say that you did it, and then you can say maybe learn from those things and do the next thing bigger and better.
For terms of like tips as like for beginners, like I think the main 3 things that I live by, and like at least I still am trying to learn to this day, is patience, forgiveness, and persistence. Because like those 3 things I feel are so true in like how we as artists treat ourselves. Like you said, be kind to yourself. And like the main thing is patience, and it's essential when creating art because it takes a lot of time to design concepts and like your world and the characters as well. So like developing the story takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So you have to like be patient with your progress, because like good things come with time, and you need that time to make your story good. So have patience with yourself. And another thing of, you know, as artists, we all know the feeling of being limited by our skill level. And like, however, that is where you have to have like forgiveness and allow yourself to be bad at something in the beginning, because like no one is good at everything for the first time that they try it. And learning new skills takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and many hours of practice. So like have of that like forgiveness for yourself in your learning stages. And then like for persistence, to become a master at something, you need to have persistence. So like sticking to your goals, you know, those like weekly goals of like setting out the chapter progression of like inking and everything, and working through each of those challenges. And you'll have to get up, you'll have to get back up when you get knocked down, and you'll find that you're improving naturally just over time. And you'll notice that the things that used to be challenging will become much easier after you've been practicing at it. And with each chapter you make and post, you'll see like, oh, you know, like you learn something new from it. I'd say like those are 3 things that I hope that when people start, that they don't beat themselves up over the small things, because, you know, you have to be, you know, easy on yourself while you're learning.
Felt when I was doing my webcomic the first time around, I felt like I was on an island. And I don't know, maybe the resources out there just weren't like what they are now.
Yeah, I feel like comic making, like you said, like I think there's a lot of mystery behind it, and especially if you're going in without really knowing anything or anybody, it's difficult to like have to go through and learn each thing on your own and kind of take all these different hits and get back up again. But knowing that, you know, you're not alone with every challenge that you're going through. Other people can feel and understand the struggle, and, you know, we're still creating and you know, living our lives as artists, and that's how we improve and as how we grow.
So there has been a lot of discussion, a lot of really important and, you know, eye-opening things that we have talked about in this part. And if you want to see the second part of this video, then definitely check it out on our channels, and they will be posted at the same time, so you can get even more insight and info on the webtoon creation process and all the things that we have learned from this year of having our comics. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed the conversation that we had about being webtoon creators, the process, the ups and downs, and that conversation is going to keep going because part 2 is going to be on MAGICLANDS channel. Once again, definitely check out their webtoon Changeling and even their content on YouTube and Instagram. And of course, if you're interested in more content like this, definitely subscribe to my channel. Also, just want to take the time to mention that I now have a Patreon. So if you're interested in some behind the scenes as well as the public content seen early, then go ahead and follow for free, and paid tiers will be announced later on this year. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!